computer. Okay, welcome to Auntie Sue's Pandemic Kitchen. We're broadcasting from Queens today, from my little kitchen in Queens. And welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about anxiety. And we're going to talk about singing along with anxiety. We want to get in harmony with our anxiety and connect to all the earth energies, which is where anxiety connects and resonates on the healing compass. So I don't know about all of you, but with this internationally televised pandemic, I know for me, if I think we're all anxious, and particularly if we're not anxious, we're either a sociopath or we are taking some really sweet drugs. If you are taking those drugs, I would just appreciate you sending me a little sample. But pretty much anxiety is where we're all at. And one of the things, and I don't know about you, but I often find myself with the head in the refrigerator or one of the cupboards when I'm anxious. And I'm craving things like candy and cookies and ice cream, things that if you read the chapter in my book on sustainable health about earth energies and eating, I'm going to tell you that the habit you want to get to is to detox your diet with getting rid of sugar, flour, and alcohol. But this is a pandemic, and I don't think I should be telling you what to eat. In fact, my rule for eating is eat what you love and love what you eat. So we're all craving sweets, and part of the reason for that is that that earth energy resonates with sweet flavors, because it also resonates with the time of the year, the harvest time of the year, which overlaps both spring and summer, and to some extent into fall. And that harvest time, what we're harvesting along with it, we're harvesting vegetables and stuff like that, but fruits in particular are only harvested in that summertime, and fruits are sweet. So sweet is the flavor. Each emotion has its own flavor, and the flavor of anxiety is sweet. So there's a reason why in traditional Chinese medicine, why we expect people to be craving sweets. And in fact, the sweets do help us to manage anxiety. And in the healing compass that I use in the sustainable health book, anxiety sits in the center of that compass with fear to the north, which is what we talked about last week, and anger to the east, which is what we talked about the week before that. And then we'll be talking about grief and joy in the coming weeks. But these three emotions, fear, anxiety, and anger, all are below the waist emotions, below the diaphragm. So the heart and the lungs, which are above the diaphragm, are joy and grief. Everything else is that messy stuff that gets your guts going, both for good and for ill. So earth energy is associated with the stomach, which is how we take in everything, whether it's food or whether it's information, emotion, anything we're taking in, we take in through the stomach. So I'm gonna just, I didn't put everybody on mute, but I can put people, I'm gonna just mute everybody because it'll make the sound better. And I'm gonna plug in my earphones, which will also make the sound better for you all and probably for me as well. And I just wanna find out how people are feeling about what they're eating, or anybody have any concerns about their eating. Anybody here who is not eating sweets or craving them? If you are not, Tara, you don't have any cravings for sweets? All right, I don't know, are you anxious? Okay, well.
I eat chips and salty things.
You're going for salty things. Okay, well, salty is the flavor of fear. So that can help mitigate anxiety as well. Anxiety is sort of at the center, managing everybody. Yeah, Roberta, you had a hand up.
Yeah, I've been on Weight Watchers for the last year, and I've had very, very little sweets, and I didn't really miss them very much. But boy, this week I broke down and I bought a small chocolate bar, which I loved every moment of.
Excellent.
But I don't want to go there. I really don't want to go there. I too, Tara, love chips. I love crunch and salt. It's so satisfying. Um, but it's amazing how, I can have a desire for something. Like I'm trying not to drink too much because of Weight Watchers, and I've been great with that. But boy, I have the compulsion to eat, and I don't even try to fight it at this time because my anxiety level is so high. So I keep in the house just healthy stuff, lots of fruit, vegetables, matzah, whole wheat matzah. I love whole wheat matzah, and things that are not going to really get me going,
Right.
but they satisfy me. They're satisfying.
So so I'm going to put you back on mute here. Somebody says a little chat here. Let me just check that. I can't talk and read chat. So if you're chatting to me, you're going to have to wave your hand and talk to me. Because otherwise I lose my whole train of thought there. So if you're chatting to everybody, that's fine, or chatting to a specific person. So anyhow, so one of the things, the way that anxiety, we call it about anxiety and worry, but in traditional Chinese medicine, the more literal translation for earth energy, the motion associated, is overthinking. So analyzing, oh, like we got a good example there with you, Roberta, like you were like running through the whole, squirrel wheel, which is what I call that overthinking. I live in that wheel, so I'm very familiar with it. So that overthinking wheel of analyzing and telling a story, and that is exactly how we do manage emotions, is we do tell stories about it. And we all have different kinds of stories that we may be telling. One of the stories that comes from so many different wisdom traditions and spiritual traditions, and the way it's said in traditional Chinese medicine, or the way my teacher, Dr. Lu, tells it, is there are no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. The reason is always good. Find the good. And that's the story we want to tell ourselves. That's the story that's going to move us forward in our own growth. But it's not an easy story. And especially when bad things happen, it becomes a very difficult story. And this story of COVID-19, the story of COVID-19 certainly has a lot of hard lessons in it, a lot of hard pieces in it. But one of the ways we do digest, and getting back into the understanding that wheel and how the energies work, one of the ways we do digest something, or, if we get something, we get a mouthful of something that is just too big, we chew it up with our teeth, which resonate with fear, and then we add a little bile to it, which is a little from the anger, resonates with bile, and that helps us sort of get it down. So having that hissy fit is one of the ways that helps us manage the emotions and the information that's coming in that we talked about, or waving, connecting to the conscious universe through the element of wood, through the element of water, connecting to that conscious universe is one of the ways that we are able to digest this complex information. But one of the other things that we have in our toolbox that resonates with earth energy and this anxiety is singing. And so it doesn't matter how you sing, just sing. And especially if you are dealing with cravings, or you're dealing with anxiety and you find yourself on the way to the refrigerator, take a minute to sing a little song. And that may help you, that will also help you to manage that anxiety. So singing is a great way to do that. I think in the King and I, she talks, whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune, and no one needs to know I'm afraid. So I think that that is, again, sort of a whistling and singing, or I call them, and then put them in the same sort of boat. But so we want to get, so as I said in the book, I often talk about, you know, I recommend getting sugar out of the diet. I think at this time in our life, we certainly don't want to do any kind of real restrictive stuff that just pushes into more anxiety. But we do need to pay really close attention to our bodies and what we're feeling inside, because that's also important. So singing is a way for us to begin to do that. And the other piece is when we talk about earth energy and what are the, you know, what is the life force of earth, and within the dirt underneath our feet, within the planet, and our evolutionary history as a planet, we're talking about microorganisms. So I spent some time the other, I think I have some links in the article on my blog that I'll post with the YouTube video, is all the microorganisms that live in the dirt, you know, and mostly we just don't want to get too close to them. The things that live in dirt are mostly creep us out. You know, I mean, worms we can see, but then there's all those things you can't see, and they're a little creepy, but they have about 250 billion years ahead of us in evolution. They've been around a whole lot longer. And so when we talk about waging war on that virus, we're talking about waging war on nature, which we're nature. So we can't, you know, we're at war with ourselves. And I think, again, that's another reason why we need to let that waging war with the virus model go. We're not going to win that war for a lot of reasons. One is that they're everywhere. And the other reason is that they're way ahead of us in evolution in terms of longevity. They've been around for 250 million years, and they can mutate in 12 hours. So they're way ahead of us, and they're faster than us, and they've been around longer. So what we need to do is make friends with them. And today we're going to talk about two microorganisms that that we have had as have been a part of human life for thousands and thousands of years. They've gone back, I think, as far as 7,000 years in archaeological records of using the two microorganisms, our two micro buddies that we have a long history with, and that is, one is yeast and the other is lactobacillus. And those two microorganisms have been around with us for a long time. I think that they are both proven helpful to the immune system. And there's a lot of microorganisms that are, including most of the viruses that we have in our body, are beneficial to our immune system and beneficial to our body. So there's a lot of, that's the other reason we can't, if we wage war on all viruses in the name of COVID-19, we are going to end up in way worse shape than we were going in. So how can we use our micro friends, our micro buddies, to help us manage some of the downsides to not just COVID-19, but various other bacteria and viruses and stuff. So most of us can't imagine life without bread, beer, wine, cheese, pickles, soy sauce, tofu, tempeh. All of those require either yeast or lactobacillus, and sometimes a little of both. Kombucha uses both. So we have a whole lot of microorganisms that we have used not only to make our food digestible, but also to they help us digest our food. Most of the foods we digest simply because we've already taken in all those microorganisms. In fact, every cell in our body that has a nucleus. There's a lot of good scientific theory that indicates that the reason why we have nuclei in our cells is because viruses put them there. So they have been a part of life for so long. we don't want to be at war with them. What we want to do is get to be friends with them. And one of the things I have a lot of kitchen pets. I call them my kitchen pets, all my little microcultures. So I have a little jar of sourdough starter in my refrigerator, and that's yeast. And I have a little jar of yogurt starter, and that's one of my other kitchen pets. And the nice thing about kitchen pets is that you can neglect them. I have neglected some of my kitchen pets for months and months. And then I drag them out of the, darkest, deepest reaches of my refrigerator, and I feed them, and they come, they're happy to help me out making all these wonderful foods. And I never, ever try that with a cat or a dog or fish. But you can leave your kitchen pets in the refrigerator neglected for many, many months and still have them actually come to life again, which is pretty amazing. So today I'm going to actually teach you how to make your own little kitchen pet. And this one actually isn't one that we eat. Well, we do eat it because we spray it on our food, but it's a cleaner. Okay, this it is, my biodynamic cleaner. And I ran across this in some internet search and thought, oh, that's really a cool thing to do because it uses lactobacillus. So this is full of lactobacillus. And lactobacillus is a great way to keep vegetables fresh. This is how, before we had refrigeration, we had a way of using this. People didn't know what the organism looked like or what was called until recently. But we've had for thousands of years, we have added a little bit of salt to vegetables. We've left them in the air. The air is full of lactobacillus. The lactobacillus makes a home, and it turns those vegetables. Actually, it's anaerobic, so it needs not to have oxygen. But when it gets into something and it's deprived of oxygen, it makes pickles. Basically, it keeps the vegetables fresh. And so long ago, people learned how to inoculate, what we would call inoculate, their mediums, whether it was dairy or vegetables, with these microorganisms, and they would turn everything into pickles. I couldn't find an actual account of it online, but I know Michael Pollan, and I've read other people say that they found 200-year-old kimchi cabbage preserved in Korea, I think in Korea or China, and it was still edible, although I can't imagine who tested it, but it was still crispy and still fresh. And this is when you have a fermented pickle, not the ones that you put in a vinegar solution and cook, but the ones that you put in with salt and a little bit of whey, or allow the air to inoculate it, and you get those nice fresh pickles that we love, and sauerkraut. So here's how to make your own biodynamic cleaner. So this is a live cleaner. It's full of live. And the reason why I call it biodynamic is because I sang while I was making it. And that's to, make the little microorganisms happy. One of my favorite herbalists, Stephen Harrod Buhner, he, in his book about beer, he talks about the visions that came to people that told them how, mostly women, by the way, that told them how to make beer and how to make some of these foods. They came to them in a vision. And one of the things that was important is to pray over it or sing over it. So I sang while I was making this. Now, I'm going to show you the ingredients and tell you how to do it. The first thing you need to start with is whey. And whey is that liquid that you get when you you have a thing of yogurt, and I'm going to show you what I've got here. And you get that watery stuff on the top of it. I'm going to see if I can show you. I don't know if you can see, but you've all probably seen. I don't know if you can see the liquid in this, but this is an open. As soon as you scoop out the yogurt, you're going to get a collection of liquid. And what you want to do with that, instead of just throwing it out, you're going to pour it into a jar. Each time, each morning, or whenever you get your yogurt, take that, put it into a jar. Now, if you make yogurt, you can collect a whole lot of it at a time. this is my collection. This is my whey. I always, and the other thing that's nice when you have kitchen pets is to put their birth date on it so that you know how old they are. And this is also good information to have. They probably like happy birthday songs too. But anyhow, you can see this liquid in here. This is from, I took a quart of milk and I made yogurt out of it. And then I took that yogurt and strained it and took a lot of the water out of it to make it into sort of a Greek style yogurt. It was actually almost to the consistency of cream cheese, but it was very thick. And this is what I got from that. So this is almost a quart jar. So I got a lot of whey out of that. Now, you only need a couple tablespoons in order to make this spray. So the next step is, after you've got your whey, whether you don't have to have this much, just a couple tablespoons will do. Quarter cup is plenty. And what you'll do then is take this and you'll pour it through a coffee filter to strain out a little bit more of the milk solids. And then you're going to add brown sugar to that. So if you have 2 tablespoons of whey, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And then you're going to get something that looks like this. Okay. Birth date is on it. Okay, so this is whey and brown sugar, and it's 1 to 1. So if you have a tablespoon, you add a tablespoon. If you have a quarter of a cup, you add a quarter of a cup of brown sugar. What the sugar does is puts all the little lactobacillus and anything else living in there into a sugar coma. This is why we don't want to eat so much sugar, because if we eat that much sugar, we will also go into a sugar coma. But we do want our little microorganisms to go in a sugar coma. And the reason why we use brown sugar is that the molasses has some nutrients that are beneficial to the microorganisms and to us that's why we do better with molasses than sugar, because molasses has got iron and potassium and all sorts of other good things, calcium. So we're gonna have that 1 to 1 whey and brown sugar. And then we take 2 teaspoons of that mixture and we add it to a cup of water. So this actually had 2 cups and 4 teaspoons, which is 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon. And that's because there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So I put a tablespoon and a teaspoon, so 2 teaspoons for every cup of water into my spray bottle. And now what I do is I spray it on my vegetables. So I'll put my I've been trying to get rid of plastics in my life too. I'm doing the best I can. So this then is my cilantro that's about a week old. I don't know if you can see it here. And it's probably time to get some new cilantro, but it's still pretty fresh. It's a little bit limp, it dried out, but I can spray it with this. All right, just like it makes pickles, it's gonna keep this also fresh. And then when I wrap my bandana around it, I will give it another couple of sprays and wrap it around, spray it. It got really dried out, so I'm spraying it a lot more than I sometimes do. Okay, so now I have, not only have I got it moist, which it needs the moisture, but I've also put those lactobacillus, and they're the ones that make the pickles, so they're also going to keep that nice and fresh. I have this here. I don't know if you can see it. This is where I've got my peppers and stuff. So this is also about a week old. This pepper, it's a little limp, not too bad, but I also, when I cut piece off, I'll spray it with that to keep it moist and to keep it protected by the lactobacilli. When you're cleaning vegetables in the sink and you have a big bottle of your, you know, if you have a lot of the whey mixture, you can pour in, you can pour in like a teaspoon of this right into a sink full of, or a tablespoon of this, or just slosh it in if you have enough. into a sink full of water when you're cleaning your vegetables when you get them from the grocery store. I usually tend to clean my vegetables in vinegar, and then afterwards I may spray them with this. One of the papers that I read, which was a paper from I don't remember. It was a scientific, it was a research paper. There's a link to it in the blog post that'll be posted with the YouTube video. But it was a study where they had used a lot of disinfectant cleaners, like bleach. I use a 1 to 10% bleach if I want to really kill everything. I use that, and that works extraordinarily well, except that according to this research article, 15 minutes later, a biofilm forms, okay? And you don't have the control over what microorganisms those are unless you spray them with lactobacillus. So lactobacillus then will take over because you've put, there's so many of them in this little solution. They then take over, and it's just like, I know Roberta, and she has a wonderful aquarium, and there are other people I know who have them too. So in an aquarium, you have to put the right kind of fish and plants in, or else you get an algae overgrowth and the water turns green and you have all kinds of problems. So that's the same principle that we're using, that we would use in an aquarium. There's her aquarium, she's showing it off. The same principle you would use in an aquarium is the same principle we're using here, is that we are introducing our friends. Okay, this is the cavalry. And so I always imagine that my microorganisms are eating up all the little COVIDs. I don't know if lactobacillus actually eats COVID viruses, but I imagine that they are. And but I do know that they can form a network that will outcompete other microorganisms, and that's what we want to do. So these are our micro buddies. Yeah, Tara, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes. Can you spray that on a cut lemon or a cut onion?
I would definitely recommend anything you've cut into, you spray it. It's going to do the same thing that, putting sauerkraut in a lactobacillus, putting it in, it's going to do the same kind of, make the same kind of changes, or it provides essentially a bacterial film that will preserve that. And I've been experimenting with it now for a couple of weeks now, and I have found that it seems to do a pretty good job of keeping things fresh. So it's nice to just sort of have it around. Sometimes I'll wipe the counter off, first with the bleach solution, and then I'll come back maybe 15 minutes later or sometime later in the day and spray this on top of it to make sure that I'm getting that I'm getting the right balance of microorganisms that benefits me. So does that answer your question? Yeah, try it out. Michelle's got her hand up too. Michelle, do you know how to unmute yourself? I'll just unmute you. Let me do it.
Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Go back to when you were saying when you wipe something down with bleach and then a biofilm.
According to this research article, even when
Yeah.
you use a real strong disinfectant,
Mhm.
so it cleans everything off,
Right.
but it doesn't take, you never get 100%. And
Right.
within 15 minutes, the microorganisms have created a new biofilm, basically, on your counter. So, we can't see any of these things.
Right.
So we have to take the scientific research at its word when they do. And there was a really interesting paper that I read, and the link is in the blog. If you can't find it in the blog or on the where the YouTube video will be right underneath it, I will repost the blog there so you can go there and you can read it. I'm not sure if the links stay included. I think they do, but you can also email me and I'll send you that research paper. It's pretty interesting if you like to read research paper.
Well, I've been reading a lot of research papers lately, but anyway, because I have a bleach water solution that not quite daily, but I'll wipe down you know, the refrigerator handle, I'll wipe down the door handle for the apartment.
Yeah.
Like anything that's in common that my roommate and I would be touching, I'm wiping
Right.
down.
Right.
So what does the biodynamic spray do then on top of that?
Yeah,
Explain
what
that
it
again.
does is, there's actually a really nice, it is a time-lapse video, but it doesn't tell you what the time-lapse is. And it starts with one lactobacillus, and you just see it makes a net.
Yeah.
And so that's how it protects the vegetables too, is it makes a network around them. Because lactobacillus is kind of a long, skinny microorganism, and as it collects, it just makes a network. And so essentially it creates that film over top, and it's gonna, as I said, outcompete the other bacteria because it's our buddy and we sang to it.
Right.
We made it. So,
Okay.
but probably even if you don't sing to it, it will still do it. But I like to think of,
I like to sing. I don't mind
to be
singing to anything.
friends.
So,
They're not
so that's
cuddly.
fine.
Yeah,
Right.
they're not cuddly, but they're still
Right.
beneficial. So you might, I mean, you know, you and I came up in hospitals and you know, live and die by the bleach solution and the gloves and the masks and stuff. So I still like my bleach solution, but every few days or so I might spray it with this, and definitely anything I'm going to eat, I'm going to spray with this because I don't really want to eat the bleach. I mean, the chlorine does evaporate, but I don't really want to eat it. This, I don't mind eating it. This is just sugar and whey and water, mostly water. But
so it makes a protective covering. So theoretically, other things don't get on your door handle, in a sense.
Right. It eats up some of the stuff probably that you don't want, and it outcompetes it. And so it's sort of like one of the things, oops, I've got a couple of admits in here I need to put in. It outcompetes the other organisms that we don't want. So that's basically how it works. It's sort of like, you know, when you're planting a field or a forest, you want to have as many different microorganisms as possible. But some of them are better. If you put mint in your garden, it will take over. If you put lactobacillus on your vegetables, it will take over, theoretically anyway. This is, you know, and this is what that research found, is that the lactobacillus formed a protective microfilm, if I read the article correctly.
Cool.
So it is cool, isn't it? I just thought it was like really fascinating. And it was interesting to see that there actually had been some pretty decent research that had been done on that. So does anybody else have any questions? Melinda, do you have one? Oh, okay. You're recording on your phone? Oh, you just got a phone call. Got it. All right. So anyhow, so that's it. That's our lesson today from the microbiome and about the pandemic kitchen. So does anybody have any other questions about previous weeks or things that you want to learn about coming up? Okay, Kay's got her hand up, and then I'll come back to you, Michelle. Kay, I'm gonna let you unmute yourself. Yes.
Got it. Yeah, sorry. I was in and out on cell service as you were describing the recipe for your spray bottle. Is it simply whey plus brown sugar, nothing else added?
There's a little bit more to it. I think you maybe missed a step in it, and I have it up on the blog post and stuff. But basically, you have 1 part of this whey and 1 part brown sugar. So this is about like a ½ cup of whey and a ½ cup of brown sugar or something on that order. Okay. And now I take 2 teaspoons of this and I add it to a cup of water to make this.
Okay, got it.
So it's 1-to-1 whey brown sugar and then 1-to-20 whey solution to water.
Okay.
Pretty simple. And oh, you have a Berkey filter too? Yep. I got the original recipe off of a blog post, which I never could find again. or a video on cleaning Berkey filters. But one of the things they suggest is whenever you fill up the filter, the top of your Berkey filter, you spray some of this in. And I have been getting better flow through my filters with it. That's what he said would happen, and it did.
Wow.
So obviously the little lactobacilli are cleaning the outside of the filters, I guess.
Hungry little devils.
Hungry little devils. So
And
they
is
are.
there a long shelf life for that concentrate solution that's 1-to-1?
This is, they said 1 to 3 years, not even refrigerated. They say 1 to 3 years for this. I don't think I would keep it in the refrigerator and use it to eat for 1 to 3 years. But once you've got it in a sugar coma, it should last, and you don't even have to refrigerate it. Just keep it cool and dark.
Okay.
And labeled.
And labeled, yes, very much labeled, because otherwise you're going to look at this and say, yeah, so you can see, I don't know if you can see how I have it labeled.
Yeah.
And I always put the date on it too. The date when I made it. So, but I have markers, the Sharpie permanent markers, and I can write on my glass jars with it, and then I can use a little baking soda to take it off when I clean them, so I can reuse them. And then if it's plastic, disposable plastic, I write right on it. But you would not want to keep this 1 to 3 years in plastic, but you can keep it 1 to 3 years in glass. So Michelle, are you done? Is that it, Kay? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Michelle, your turn.
Just 2 things quickly. I'm assuming you can't use whey from like almond milk yogurt. It's got to be milk.
Doesn't necessarily. I think you'll have a stronger whey from a milk product, but as long as on the label it says live active cultures, that's what you really need. Live active cultures.
Okay.
And
yeah.
do use other liquids besides milk to make lactobiotic beverages of various kinds. I've always used milk to make my yogurts with my cultures, but I know that I have recipes that just say that you can use almond milk, or you can use some of those other things. The one thing you cannot use is lactose-free milk. There needs to be some sort of sugar,
right?
For the little microorganisms to eat. You can also take rice. I tried this, but you still have to use milk or something. The lactobacillus, the lacto comes from milk. So I don't know, but theoretically, if they've made yogurt with a live active culture, they've made it with a lactobacillus. So somehow they managed to do that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
But you can actually take rice, when you clean the rice and you shake it and you have that water you pour down the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you can take that rice wash water before you've cooked it. You can take that and you can grow, lactobacillus will happily grow in that. And then you add milk to really give them a big meal, and then you leave it out and it forms curds and whey. You get the solids on the top and the whey on the bottom. But the lactobacillus, the microorganisms, the lactobacilli, they will eat all the sugar out. So if you have a problem with sugar or lactose, if you're lactose intolerant, there's no lactose in here. They ate it already. This stuff on the bottom is casein. And so most people have an allergy to the sugar, which is the lactose, which is gone from here, but it would be in milk. This is the casein. This is the protein. A very small percentage of people have, like 3% of the population has an allergy to casein. So that's the other reason why you want to pour it through the filter, because then you've taken out all the protein, and the microorganisms have already taken care of the lactose for you. So you have essentially allergen-free way when you
Mhm.
get done with it. That's the theory anyway.
Okay. And then the other thing I just wanted to share, we were talking about, singing. I've almost incessantly been watching a Broadway musical that somebody filmed and just
Yeah.
threw up on YouTube. It's called, what is it called? Something's Rotten, the musical.
Oh, right. Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, okay. It's just so funny. Like I watched it again last night. I think I've watched it like 3 times already. And so yeah, the whole singing, I guess maybe that's why I just keep going back to
Singing,
it. It's
yeah.
hysterical and it's singing and
Yeah.
it's just marvelous.
Well, funny songs are good for the heart. We'll talk about the heart in a couple of weeks, or in our joy, the emotion. So funny songs are going to do that. Be good for that as well.
We know nothing of funny songs.
Yeah, Tamer and I are the major collectors of funny songs. She and I know Smothers Brothers songs that I know no one else in the world has ever heard.
Smothers Brothers.
We can
I
sing.
know who they
We
are.
can sing them. Oh, Roberta
I
says.
remember the show.
And we
Okay.
would sing them at parties and people would just shake
Yes.
their heads at us.
They
Little
did.
little Dickie Smothers. Little Dickie Smothers.
Yeah, I never met anybody who knew all the words to Smothers Brothers song till I met Tamer, and
That was it. That was the bond.
singing about Herman and Sally, the crab and the lobster. Anyhow, but any song, sing a song, sing out loud, sing it long.
Yeah.
There's a chat here. I don't know if somebody's trying to get my attention or somebody else's attention. Okay. So
Another thing that I was going to say another thing that makes me laugh on the internet, bad lip reading. Just do a Google search for bad lip reading. I know it sounds terrible, but it's really quite funny.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah.
There's a number of parodies that have been done. There's one of Julie Andrews singing COVID-19, I think. That's pretty good on a with the do re mi song. It's
Yeah.
quite good. And then there's Quarren Queen, which is really good. I don't know if you've seen that. I've sent it out to a lot of my friends, but it's Quarren Queen. And this guy has got a towel wrapped around his head and he's singing to the Dancing Queen. And it's funny. It's very funny. I highly recommend that one. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. People are laughing. That's what we want to do. That also helps. Singing helps with getting rid of anxiety, and laughing brings up joy. So that's what we really need in these times. So let go of fear, let go of anger, and we'll talk some more about what we do with grief next week. So anyway, any other questions or anything? Melinda's signing off. Or maybe you're not signing off, you're just kissing. Okay, that's good.
Bye.
Okay, if nobody has any questions, you can always email me. Okay, I'll talk to you all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming to my kitchen.
Thanks for having me.
You're
And us.
welcome. Bye.
Click.
Click. Bye.
See you, Susan.
See you.